We recording?
Yep, I'm recording. It's working. I'm making sure it's working this time.
Okay. And hello to all of our viewers or listeners, I guess, depending if you're not paying attention to the video that we worked so very hard on, or I worked hard on at least. But welcome back. Welcome back to the Wizard Staff. I am your host, Guy.
And I'm Blake.
And tonight we'll be talking about EDH drinking variances. So we'll be kind of going over how we incorporate drinking into EDH, which, you know, can lead to a better or maybe worse, or, you know, it's a wild time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, funny story, because it really bummed me out, like, last week while I was trying to edit this episode, but Blake's microphone apparently broke, and so it's, like, middle of the night, and I'm like, alright, time to start recording, or not recording, editing the video, and I plug in Blake's audio, and nothing plays. Zero. Shit. And I'm like, alright, well, maybe I need to re-download it. And so I do that like 5 times, and I get nothing. Nothing. And so, texted Blake. Blake's awake for some reason, and he's like, oh shit, it didn't record. So I'm like, well, fuck. So this is actually round 2 of episode 3.
Yeah, we were on schedule, and then we were like, oh fuck. Yeah, we have nothing.
we're not gonna be those guys who just kind of like start doing it and then they're like, well, shit, we're not getting any views after episode 2, so let's just give up now. You know, we're trying to stick through it until at least episode 7, cause
yeah, like we were on track. It's just I fucked up.
You didn't fuck up, Blake. I mean, you fuck up sometimes, but this wasn't your fault this time.
Yeah. And hopefully the audience can tell, but because I thought my mic was broken, I have this new sexy microphone, and you can hear my glorious voice and all its sexiness.
That's probably the first time I've ever heard someone call a microphone sexy, to be honest.
Get used to it. I like it.
I don't know if I am going to be able to get used to it, because, well, I guess my mic is probably the unsexiest that it could ever be. The audio's shit compared to, like, Blake's. So I actually did just buy a nicer microphone as well. So hopefully our podcast will only get better from here.
Yes, and I would also just like to point out that Guy is the one who bought us identical microphones that you've been listening to.
I thought we could be consistent. Our channel would do well if we kind of had, like, the same materials.
Yeah.
And I guess I was wrong, because... Well, my microphone's working pretty well. Well, Blake, your microphone actually did work. It's just something got loose.
Yeah, it's working.
So yeah, his old one did work fine. So he just spent a lot of money for no reason, and now I bought another.
Not no reason. Look at how good my voice sounds, or listen to how good my voice sounds.
This will be the last episode where Blake's voice sounds better than mine.
This is the last episode I'm going to be in. From here on out, it's going to be Guy only.
Yeah, from now on, whenever I record an episode, I'm just going to, like, leave out Blake's audio, and I'm just going to have long pauses in between, because I'm, like, trying to be spiteful that Blake had a nice microphone when I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to go far with this. Anyway, alright, so tonight's episode. Episode 3, drinking variances. So, Commander is kind of a casual format. It's the most casual of the formats. Like, you have Standard, you have Legacy, you have Modern. But Commander is one of those formats where it's kind of like playing a board game. You get a bunch of people together, like 4 or 5 other friends. You sit down. You want to spend, like, maybe an hour or 2 per game just because, like... You know, that's what can happen in Commander, and it's just, you play for the camaraderie, you build alliances, you play politics. There's so many more aspects to playing Commander than there is the other formats of Magic that you kind of lose it, and it just builds such a much more fun and interesting game. And so tonight we want to talk about like, well, what if you added drinking? And what are some like drinking rules? So similar to how EDH already is, because EDH is kind of like a format where you can make your own house rules. So not everyone that you go and play with is going to have the same rules, because maybe some people will play with the ban lists. Maybe some people are like, nah, we don't need no ban lists. Any card's good. So that's when you can incorporate like the Power 9, which is like ridiculous if you don't know what that is. But so anyway, so house rules. So like you could come up with your own variances of how to drink while you play. But tonight Blake and I are going to go over a few of our different ways of how we thought of trying to incorporate drinking into EDH, because it is a complex format. There are a lot of different cards. It probably has like the largest allowance for cards. Wouldn't you say, Blake?
I mean, yeah. I mean, of all the cards ever printed in the game, only like a couple dozen are like banned by like the committee. So it's like we have so many options. We have so many things we can do. It's kind of ridiculous, and that's why I love it.
Right. Like Commander can be definitely also the most broken, because Modern tends to like at least allow itself to, you know, Modern's the one where see, this is also kind of going back to like how Blake and I don't know shit about Magic, but I think Modern's the one where it's like you can only play with the most 3 or 4 most recent sets.
Dude, I don't even know. I knew at one point because I needed to tell you, and then I forgot that same day.
All right, thanks, Blake. You're a real help, as always.
You're welcome. I'm the best co-host.
I mean, yeah. I don't think there's anyone else I'd rather do this with. But, okay. So, yeah, EDH is a complex format because you do have all these cards. But you shouldn't then try and incorporate maybe as many drinking rules into it. So we have a few that we might suggest. You might come up with your own, because then things really can get crazy or out of hand, and we don't want to create like a environment where, you know, you're more stressed about the rules than necessarily the game. I mean, you should definitely be like focused on the game, and like, you know, maybe these drinks that you've incorporated are somehow able to influence your decisions, because, you know, maybe you do something and you're like, oh, well, if I do this and I want to fuck over my friend here, Blake, I'm going to have to take a shot for it. Maybe then that kind of allows you to be less shitty of a person and not destroy lands. So, we do want to include a disclaimer, though. If you do play EDH and you're drinking at the same time, that maybe you should try and think about what you're doing afterwards. So let's say if you're with like a group of 4 or 5, you end up drinking like a lot because you play a lot of EDH or whatever, that you then like think, oh, let's turn this into like a sleepover type deal, so that way nobody's drinking and driving. That's definitely like number 1 rule, actually.
Don't drink and drive. We want you to play many EDH games for the rest of your life.
Don't make one dumb decision and not be able to play Magic for the rest of your life.
Priorities.
Yeah. And so one thing that could even like help with that is maybe there's one person during your game that, you know, is either drinking less or is sober, because then at least they're able to say, hey, Blake, you've had too much to drink. You can't drive home, or then they can drive you home. And that kind of does give them the advantage of like, oh, now their impairment while they play is not as like abundant as like maybe mine would be after like drinking a glass of wine or 2. And so that I guess that's understandable, but you could also, you know, the person who's sober can just kind of like, you know, they can play a more casual deck and not try and be as competitive to like beat their friends.
Yeah, and I will say, like, in my play group, there is someone who just prefers not to drink. and that's fine. That's his choice. And so he's able to drive us, all us drunkards, back to our houses at the end of the night if we so choose. And that's a really nice convenience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is, yeah, that's definitely something, try and keep that in mind before you start, playing EDH or even like just planning the event.
Mm-hmm. And we also want to add that you should probably not include betting when doing drinking EDH, because that's a very quick way to just create a lot of possible bad scenarios that just don't need to happen in the first place.
Yeah, avoid the ante, if you know what that means. But to those who don't, the ante used to be like a mechanic in the game where you actually betted cards. Like, this was like a legit mechanic in the game that you would then bet cards in real life. Mm-hmm. Which I don't think it lasted too long, but
nope.
Every card that has, well, I guess, yeah, any card that has the ante on it is banned in EDH.
Yeah. Well, it's like the Wizards of the Coast didn't want to promote that mechanic, and I'm glad they didn't. It was not a type of game I would want to play.
It might be interesting if they had done it in a different way. Like, there's actually, like, kind of to go off of, like, some cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! That I've seen, where it's like, if you do this, shake your opponent's hand, and it's just these weird rules that kind of, like, promote maybe not betting, but, like, better gameplay or just, sportsmanship. And so ante definitely isn't like doing that. So it would have been interesting if, Wizards of the Coast had incorporated the handshake policy. So like if you play this card, shake your opponent's hand, or something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We also want to say that in drinking EDH, you do want to be a little bit careful in terms of politics, and to leave. Just like in politics, you just kind of like leave the outside world like to itself. Don't bring it into the game, because that's like politics can get heated, especially if you do choose to drink, and you just don't want to put yourself in that type of position.
Right. I definitely agree with you. Where, Blake, if you were to have insulted my outfit the other day, and then like we get halfway into a game and I'm like, well, Blake, you just, that was my favorite outfit and you just shat all over it. I'm not gonna then try and be political about that during the game. I'll definitely take that up with Blake at another time
in the back alley after the game's over.
Yeah, though Blake's, I don't know, how tall are you, Blake?
6'2".
Yeah, he's got a couple inches on me, so I feel like Blake would actually probably, like, yeah. I don't think I'd actually be able to take Blake in the back alley.
Okay.
Alright, moving on. But we recommend that maybe you put your drinks on the floor rather than on the table, just because, these are very expensive cards sometimes. Like, you might have a $100 card that, if you were to accidentally spill a drink on it, like, I don't know, that could then just lead to worse situations. Like, if you've also been drinking, you might be a little more sensitive. Like, if someone spilled alcohol on my Invocation Platinum Angel, I would be pissed. But, like, so just try and avoid situations like that where, a spill is more likely because, you might be a little drunk or tipsy. Something like that.
Like, I play drinking EDH, and that's like our rule. It's like we all agree that we put our drinks next to our chair on the ground, because like the minor inconvenience of reaching down to grab your drink is like vastly more beneficial than the chance and probability of a drunk person like being uncoordinated and spilling the drink all over the table. It's just the benefits far outweigh like the other option. So that's our personal like comment.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure nobody's would do that on purpose, but you also don't want to
No,
feel bad for, being the one who happened to spill their drink.
just avoid the potential disaster entirely. Just put it next to your chair on the ground. Just do it. You'll thank us.
Yeah, you'll thank us. You'll literally send us a thank you note. Blake and Guy, this is my favorite podcast. You guys are the best. We love you.
Yeah.
And all right, one more thing before we start getting into our actual rules, but we want to just kind of go over some vernacular. But when we say take a drink in our rules, we're referring to, let's say you have a beer. You take that and you sip on it for 3 to 4 seconds. You get a good gulp, and that's it. Now, that can be anywhere from like 5% to like 12%, so maybe it's a beer, maybe it's a glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
And then the hard liquor, obviously, when we say like take a shot, that means like, vodka, Fireball, tequila, whatever your preference is. Maybe you can make a theme out of it during the night, where it's we have tequila shots for every asshole who destroys a land. Things like that.
Yeah.
And Blake, I think now that we're quite a bit into the episode, but what were you drinking? What are you drinking right now?
Oh gosh, I knew you were gonna ask that question, and it's like I'm a bit into my beverage, and I can't really pronounce it. It's like Hogu Riesling wine. I don't know how to pronounce anything. It's good though. I love it. I'm gonna finish the bottle by the end of this episode.
Awesome, because I'm now, because I think tonight's the night where we're both drinking some wine. Is that a red wine or a white wine?
It's a white wine.
Yeah, white wine's definitely. I think white wine is definitely better, like drinking just by itself rather than, red wine I would typically eat with like a meal.
Mm-hmm.
But white wine, I would say, like, yeah, it's just, time to watch The Bachelorette, break out a glass of wine, and that would typically be, like, white wine. And so I'm drinking Bartonura. It's a beautiful blue bottle. Pinot Grigio. It's 12% alcohol. I drank a glass last night to, like, see how it was, and then I was like, all right, well, I'll drink probably 2/3. I drank the rest of the bottle tonight, or I'm still working on it at least.
Yeah. You didn't shotgun a wine bottle this time?
I definitely have one in my fridge, and I might consider doing that for the next episode, but
Okay.
Who knows?
Okay. Well, in designing drinking EDH, you are kind of designing rules that want to encourage or deter certain behaviors or mechanics. Because you're almost like a game developer. Like, you want to encourage certain behaviors and discourage others, and almost all commanders rely on different mechanics. So this can be kind of tricky. And I do want to say, like, Guy and I have done our research. We've gone through, like, tons and tons of websites, whether it's like Reddit threads or whatnot, or other websites. Like, we've tried our best to look at what's online, and we talked a lot before this episode about various rules and like what we thought were good and what were bad, and we ended up creating 5 different sections of like rule type. And yeah, go ahead.
I would also just love to throw this out, but if anyone from Wizards of the Coast happens to be listening to this episode, Blake and I obviously, if you're thinking like, man, we want to incorporate drinking into Commander, how should we do this? Well, you got 2 young men right here who are looking for jobs that would love to come and work for you. And I will accept my payments in Magic cards.
Yes. You can hit us up at wizardstaff101 or our email, wizardstaff101@gmail.com.
We made it very easy for you.
Yes. Hire us, please. So our first rules category is setbacks slash destruction based. And our first rule is mass land destruction. You take a shot slash drink. Now we wrote down this rule, but we'd like to talk about it, and I'm a bit contentious on this issue. Mass land destruction is kind of a touchy subject with some metagames, and it's my personal opinion that mass land destruction for certain commanders is a very viable strategy. It is like their main win condition is to destroy lands, and I think that's viable.
Yeah, I definitely agree where, I've talked about my Avacyn deck where, I make everything invincible. Not invincible, indestructible. So, like, once everything's indestructible for me, if I can take out your lands, I'm taking out your lands. And I will do, 10 shots if that's the consequence. Because if I can take out your lands, I'm winning the game.
Yeah. I don't know. Definitely in more casual metagroups, it's like don't touch lands. They're sacred. They're like, you don't mess with a person's lands, dude. You don't mess with them. It's like
I guess if I could see this being an issue if one asshole comes in with a super competitive deck and does have this strategy of trying to destroy everyone's lands, and no one else has any way to respond to that. If you're just trampling over everyone else, kind of a pun there because trample's an ability.
Oh my god.
But if you're able to take advantage of other people and that they don't have the answers, maybe take a step back there.
Yeah. Well, that's a different topic, I feel. But
well, yeah, but
yeah.
So
right.
You could either take a shot, just depending
or
on
a drink.
Yeah. Well, I would actually say you should take a shot if you're going to destroy every other person's lands.
Yeah, not each land. Just if you're gonna, yeah.
If every land leaves, take a shot. I don't want to say you've earned it, but you've earned it.
It's turn 8. Everyone's on curve. Take 32 shots.
Oh, you're talking about for each land, take a shot.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
We're not trying to kill people.
Okay. All right, our next rule is when you're eliminated from the game, take a drink. Take a shot if you were killed by commander damage. I personally like this rule.
I agree, because, it kind of... It makes also then the, Voltron commanders a little more... Not viable, because, this doesn't help them at all or anything, but, it just makes... It makes the satisfaction of killing someone with commander damage, a little more satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And I was gonna also, take a shot if you were killed by commander damage. I would also say, take a shot if you were killed by infect, or some other way that wasn't, just normal, everyone beats up on you, 40 damage. Because, infect or commander damage is a little harder, just because, you're typically more protective when something like that comes up.
Yeah, you might be, as an infect player, you might be able to kill one person, but it's really difficult, at least in my experience, to kill the remaining 2.
Yeah. I have definitely played with my Skithrix deck and only really been able to kill one because I'm helping out someone else, and then once I kill one person, everyone's like, alright, well, guy just killed him and, he didn't really do much. I don't want him to do that to me, so they almost pretty much take me out next.
You just need to get better at politics then.
That's true.
Yeah. I do too, it's okay. Our next rule is when you eliminate a player, take 2 drinks. I like this rule because it means, like, if you just eliminated a player, you're probably out ahead and you're winning compared to all your other opponents. And so, like, you need to take 2 drinks in order to slow yourself down. Like, let your judgment be impaired. Like, let your other opponents catch up to you and maybe, like, level the playing field. It's all about leveling the playing field.
Yeah, and this would also then kind of... I mean, if you do happen to take out a player and maybe it's, like, really early, then yes, definitely take 2 drinks. But also, if you're at this point where, you know, there's one person who's at really low health and then there's, like, 3 of you who are at pretty good, like, statuses, you could let one of your other people take out the person who's at lower health, and then they have to take 2 drinks. They become impaired, and then you're able to, like, oh, now I'm able to, like, swoop in and, like, take out him. Set yourself up for success.
Yes. Alright, our next rule is player takes a drink every time they are dealt 10 or more combat damage. And I personally like this rule because, at least from what I've seen, like, combat isn't as heavily emphasized. And it's more difficult. And I like to see that this drinking rule promotes the combat mechanic.
Yeah, because oftentimes you see how people will then split up their attackers, and they'll be like, well, I'm doing 4 damage to you, I'm doing 4 damage to you, and I'm doing 4 damage to you. As to where this is like, alright, I'm just going to do all 12 of that damage to one person instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't know. It's also like 10 or more combat damage at, like, from a single source is, like, pretty impressive. So I feel like you earned it.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, especially if you do also, like, maybe, because I don't know, I feel like at some point I want to turn my Skithrix deck into a Skithrix Voltron, because I feel like that would be even better, where he can just deal the 10 damage really quickly and be able to you know, take someone out. So I think that strategy of, like, you know, you have to drink every time that you take someone out, especially then with Infect. Yeah.
Alright, our next rule is take a drink every time your commander leaves play. I really like this rule because this is Commander. Like, the game freaking rotates around your commander. Like, you built your entire deck around your commander, usually, unless you, like, decide to do some weird theme to your deck. And so it's like, there's commander tax, and then of adding 2 additional colorless mana every time you have to recast your commander, and then you're gonna have to be drinking on top of this. But I'd almost say, like, whoever got rid of your commander, that person takes a drink. I don't know.
No, I agree. Like, well, no, I don't know if I would agree with that, because, like, if a commander comes out, like, that's, like, it's almost like when a planeswalker comes out, and how that's, like, you know, that becomes the number 1 threat, because, you know, we know that deck is built around the commander, and so I don't know if, like, someone would be... Yes and no, I guess. Like, yeah, because, you know, you're doing something else to someone, but also, like... I don't know. I mean, I agree, yes, a drink every time your commander leaves play. I guess that could be a house rule, whether or not, like, a drink every time you get rid of someone else's commander.
Yeah. I would also like to add, like, when I was doing research on this, like, I found a rule where it's like, take a shot every time your commander leaves play. And I was like, hell no. Has this person even ever played the format? Like, I know someone who's had to recast their commander 6 times in a game. I'm not even kidding. They pay the commander tax each time. They play their commander 6 times. They should not be having to take 6 shots. Like, are you trying to kill people? Like, you're usually gonna have to cast your commander more than once, and it's like you're gonna have to be. If that was the case, you'd have to be drinking at least 2 shots every game, and but on top of all these other rules, you probably shouldn't be doing that. No.
I think I'd also like to add is if, because there was a one time where Blake and I played online against each other where it was my Angel deck Avacyn versus his Sigarda, and I took out his Sigarda like 3 or 4 times, and that would have meant Blake had to do 3 or 4 shots, and he's my only opponent. So if you do play Commander and you do want to incorporate drinking, try to take into consideration how many people you're playing with, because if I were playing Blake, because he's the only other person I'm playing with, I don't want him to take 3 shots because I'm punishing him for getting rid of his commander 3 times. Well, I do want to punish you, Blake, but I also want to have fun, and I don't want you to die.
Yeah, and I mean, in that very specific situation, it is 1v1 commander.
Yeah, so just take into consideration how many people you're playing with.
Yes. All right. This last rule of the section is take a drink every time your spell is countered. Well, I saw this a lot in my research, and I don't necessarily agree with it, because I do believe, as painful as being countered over and over again, counter decks, in my opinion, along with mass land destruction, is a viable deck strategy. You just control the board until you find an opportunity to surge ahead, especially in the late game, and win. I feel like it's especially Talrand decks and Baral decks, that's their entire deck strategy, and I think that's very viable. And as much as it hurts to be countered, I think it's a viable strategy.
Yeah, I agree, because if it's almost kind of like how we're saying, we're not trying to build our rules around mechanics. We're trying to encourage it around the behaviors of the game, because these and even though these aren't mechanics of trying to counter stuff, it's still the exact way that this deck is playing. And if that's the only deck that your opponent is playing, they shouldn't be worried, because then they don't want to not play the game at the same time. So I guess you could make adjustments if whether or not someone was playing that deck, because if someone's not playing a Talrand or a Baral deck, then yeah, maybe this could be a rule. But if that is a deck that someone's playing in the game that you have, then yeah, maybe take that rule out, or try and incorporate it some other way that is not as harmful to them.
And the last thing I want to say about this is it depends on your meta. If your meta has lots of control decks which use counter spells, maybe don't include this rule. However, if there's very little counter magic, maybe implement this, because that won't be as big of a deal.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our next category. We have turn-based rules. I like these ones a lot. Our first one is drink at the beginning and end of your turn. And I personally like this because it sets a foundation, at least a level on which everyone can drink upon. I want everyone to at least have... It doesn't matter what type of deck style you're playing, at the beginning and end you drink, and it's everyone's going to be at a base level, and I like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that there should be some kind of rule, whether it's this rule or something else where like maybe you take a drink every time you drop a land, or something where it's like able to level the playing field, and so that nobody is going to go the whole game without drinking.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the rest of these rules are based on. And it depends on how heavy a drinker, like, your metagroup is. Like, if you're kind of lightweights, like, maybe only drink at the beginning of your turn or end of the turn. Maybe don't do both beginning and end.
Right. Yeah, it should be definitely something, you know, I mean, I guess, because if let's say you're just drinking a beer, maybe you could take a drink at the beginning and end of your turn, because it's only like 4 or 5% alcohol. If it was wine, maybe that's a different story, because, you know, that's like double the amount of alcohol. So you could alter this rule just a little based on like what you're drinking during the game, because like if Blake was drinking a beer and I was drinking a glass of wine, maybe I'm only taking a drink at the end of my turn because mine's 12%, as to Blake who's drinking a beer who's only 5%. So, you know.
Mm-hmm. Our next rule is at the beginning of the game, everyone take a drink.
You gotta cheers too.
Huh?
You gotta cheers?
Yeah, you gotta like start the game off right. You gotta be like, hurrah! Psh! And everyone pound down a drink and be like, all right, let's fucking do this.
It would be kind of funny if like everyone, or not funny I guess, but it would be nice if everyone was able to like take a Bud Light. That's actually the worst drink to kind of like suggest. Take like some kind of drink where, you know, some kind of drink where everyone's drinking it, and then, you know, you do set that like even playing field.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next rule is take a drink for every extra turn you take. So, I personally like this rule because there aren't, like, okay, like, there's nothing inherently wrong with taking extra turns if you win the game. But, like, it's, in my experience, it's not that fun to just sit there and watch someone else play, like, turn after turn after turn. Nothing feels worse than than going to play Magic and then not being able to play Magic. It sucks. And so, like, this is especially true of, like, Narset decks, where, like, they are designed, most often, to just take turn after turn after turn after turn, and it's like you just sit there for, like, 20 minutes watching someone else do stuff, and you're just like, okay, like... And what's worse is, like, when they do that and they don't even win. It's like, how did you design your deck to get this far but not kill everyone? It's like, that's a different topic, but I personally, in my experience, do not find the mechanic of a player taking extra turns fun. And so I like this rule because it punishes that. And I'm sorry if all you Narset players out there, you're not fun to play against. I just sit there and I'm just like, okay, do you kill me? Like, can we start the next game?
Yeah, and I think I mean, nobody else would know this except Blake, because we're the ones who kind of brought this up in the episode that wasn't actually recorded, you know? But if you are taking an extra turn per drink, it kind of goes back to this rule of, then do you drink at the beginning and end of your turn? Because you take a drink for your extra turn. Now, do you also take a drink because you're at your new turn? And then do you take a drink at the end? And then for some ungodly reason, are you taking like another drink because you have an extra turn? And then that just leads to like a fifth drink at the like your third turn and like end of your turn? Like, that can get a little out of hand. And I think... Sorry, go?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, if you're playing, like, an extra turn deck, like, you're probably taking 3 or 4 extra turns. So, like, you should probably, like, not have... This rule would probably have to override all the other rules of like taking a drink at the beginning and end of the turn. And let's be honest, if you're taking 3 or 4 extra turns, you're probably winning the game.
You're
better
probably be winning the game.
Yeah, and like you're probably eliminating other players like left and right. And so like like the rules of you'd have to drink every time you eliminate a player, those would have to be overwritten too. So this is like the dilemma. Like EDH is a really complex game. It's like what do you do?
Yeah, if you don't win the game after 3 extra turns, what
are you
the
doing?
Fuck?
That happened to me once, and I was like legitimately pissed, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, nobody wants to sit through that, because that could be like, what, 15 to 20 more minutes of someone else doing shit that didn't actually matter all that much?
Yeah, you just kind of dirtle around, and it's like, okay.
Don't waste my time. I want to, like, be able to see, or, you know, if you are taking 3 extra turns, please win. Like, you earned it. Or if I happen to be one who's taking 3 extra turns, I would love to win. And, like, yeah, I deserve it. Because, you know, I've built my deck around this ability to give me this. But I don't know. I'm actually... Hold on, Blake. I'm going to quickly grab another beer. Please talk about the next rule.
Wow. Terrible. You know what's funny is the fact that, like, in our original recording, I was the one who had to walk away from the mic. But this time it's Guy. So I feel like the playing field has been evened. So fuck you, Guy. This is what you get. I'm going to trash talk you when you're gone. All right. The next rule we have is... taking a max 4-minute turn limit, or else you drink. And I'm not so sure how I feel about this rule, because it's like EDH is a very complex game. Like, it's like, especially if you're drinking, like, you lose track of what other cards are doing and you need to ask. So, like, I don't know, I saw this on a lot of forums, like 4 minutes or else you drink. But, like, I don't know, that kind of punishes the person that's like struggling and probably is already in deeper than everyone else, and just makes them drink even more. I'm not in favor of this rule as much because of that. It just punishes the wrong person. It punishes the person that's already in deeper than everyone else, is like probably having a harder time like mentally like figuring out what the board state is like, and I just don't like it as much.
To be honest, I don't know anything that you just said for like the last 45 seconds, because I went to my fridge earlier this morning, and I still had like a ton of this Not Your Father's root beer, and I was like, I should drink some of that tonight. And
wasn't that what you drank on the first episode?
Yeah, that's the stuff that I drank on the first episode. I drank 2, and now I still have 4 left, and I'm like, because then after we recorded the first episode, I left for like 2 weeks. So I still have all this beer. Like, I have this 6-pack I haven't even touched yet. And so I'm like, I have all this beer, and I don't even drink that much. This is really the only time that I'm drinking a lot.
I'm such a good influence on you.
Yes and no. I mean, yeah, you are like my best friend, and, you know, you really give me guidance at sometimes, but you've also encouraged me to like join this community, and I've spent over $2,000, Blake, over $2,000 of like dollars that could go into this card game, and now this where it's alcohol. Anyway, I don't even know what you said for this max 4-minute turn limits or else drink, but so I'm just gonna state my opinion. If you are
just go for it.
If you are taking more than 4 minutes to do your turn, you should. It kind of depends. Like if it does take 4 minutes because you have a lot of plays, okay, that's fine. But if you're taking 4 minutes because you didn't think about, like, you had like 3 other people go and you're like, what am I gonna do? And you weren't thinking about it, and now it's your turn and you're unprepared, like, okay, now you should be punished for that.
Yeah, that's a perfect addition to what I had to say. I like that.
See, I didn't even know what Blake said, and we're so perfectly in sync that
Oh, yeah.
I was able to add a insightful comment, even though I'm super drunk.
Okay. Take a drink for drinking too much.
Yeah.
Okay. So our next rule, and our last rule in the category, is take a drink if you don't drop a land. If you miss a land drop.
It could be the opposite of what I said, is take a drink if you did drop a land.
Yeah, I almost like that rule better, because it's like, okay, you made a land drop, you're on curve. Hell, you might even be using that to mana accelerate. Like, if you make a land drop, I feel like you should, like, take a drink. Not a shot, but, like, a drink to, like, slow you down. Especially for, like, those... There's nothing worse than, like, all of you are, like, on curve making land drops, and then there's that one person at the table who's not making their land drops, and they're just, like, looking there sad and pathetic as shit. And, like, I don't know. Well, on the same, like, on a side note, like, sometimes those people can, like, act all pathetic and weak and, like, sneak in later in the game because no one was looking at them as a threat. But that's beside the point. It's like, if you're not making a land drop, like, you should be punished for that.
Right, because also, yeah, it's definitely, like, it kind of, because everyone does want to hit that land drop, and it then does put everyone at kind of, like, this even playing field, and you shouldn't, I mean... Originally, we did have it is if you didn't drop a land, take a drink. And then that kind of just punishes that person for, you know, the fate of probability. It's not your fault that you didn't draw a land. Well, maybe it kind of is because you didn't plan out your deck well enough. Where
I put no lands in my deck.
Well, then, Blake, you're going to fucking lose the game because how do you expect to play anything? You have a bunch of 0 artifact cost winning that would allow you to 0 artifact or 0 spells that would allow you to win the game. I feel like that would just be the most competitive deck. If you could play a deck where it's like 0 of nothing, I take that back, because maybe you could, because there's a ton of 0 artifacts that allow you to gain mana, and if you're only playing like 4 or 5 mana a turn with these 0 artifacts. I don't know. Maybe you could actually build that. But that's besides the point.
That's beside the point. That's a different topic. We'll talk about that in another episode or something.
When I don't know. I had to get really drunk to even like realize that.
You've been enlightened.
I don't know. 2.5 glasses of wine and now not your father's root beer. Yeah, I am very enlightened. That's what this is. I put it in my, like, coffee mug, and now it just looks like I'm drinking coffee. And I do drink coffee at, like, 11:30 at night sometimes, but, yeah, this is definitely, like, really bizarre to me.
Weirdo. Alright, our next category is storm-based rules. So, our first rule is casting 5 or more spells a turn, take a drink. And let's be honest, let's think about this. Like, if you're casting 5 or more spells a turn, you're probably winning the game, or you're very close to winning the game.
It's like if you're taking 3 extra turns, you better be fucking winning the game.
Exactly. It's like if you're at this advantage, like, you should be, like, you need to be slowed down. Like, and it's like Storm, and nobody likes Storm. Not even, like, only Storm players playing the deck like Storm. Nobody likes playing against Storm. They like it maybe once or twice. We're just gonna piss off so much of our fan base eventually.
I do care, because I do want us to be successful, and I do want to have a large fan base, but fuck you, Stormcrow.
Yeah, sorry. No. I don't like Storm. It's fun the very first time, you're like, oh, that was sick! And then, like, it happens, like, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, and you're just like, yeah, okay. That happened.
Yeah.
And on a very similar vein, our next rule is when you go infinite, take 3 drinks. And this is along the same line. If you are going infinite, you are most likely winning / like near winning the game. So you need to like take 3 drinks and slow yourself down. If you win that, then heck, maybe you play another game and then you're dumber and you can like make bad decisions, and like the next game it'll like you probably won't win and other people will have fun.
And when we say take 3 drinks, I do think we could like substitute that for like, if we're saying like take a drink is like 3 or 4 seconds of like sipping on alcohol. Take 3 drinks could mean like, you sip on your beer for like, or maybe you like chug part of your beer, where it's like, a more considerable amount. I just want to say that. But also, yeah, if you're going infinite, like, I can't think, because I also think like most times when you go infinite, your deck is already competitive. And, when in these competitive decks, when you go infinite, that normally means that you're going infinite because you are, well, nobody can go infinite technically, but if you have the ability to go infinite and then you declare like, because like, for example, Basalt Monolith Power Artifact, you can create infinite colorless mana, but you don't actually go infinite because you have to declare, alright, I'm going to untap and tap this 100 times. That's just a number. And that creates, I can't do the math right now. That creates some amount of mana. It's not infinite, but it's still, you had the ability to go infinite because you could have declared 101, 102, 103. It doesn't matter. You could have gone infinite, and when you do that, you are pretty much at this point where you're going to win the game because you just added 100 mana to your mana pool. What can you not do with 100 mana?
Yeah. And I just want to clarify for your sake, it's like you don't have to be a competitive EDH deck to like go infinite. Like it could be a casual deck and only include one pair of like cards that go infinite just for a game finisher. I just want to clarify that for you.
Okay.
Like, you don't have to be competitive.
You are right. There definitely can be an instance when you're not competitive and have that like infinite combo.
Yeah.
But in most competitive decks, you do have more infinite combos.
Yeah, because some games go on too long and you're just looking around the table. It's like, God, I just want to start a new game. And then that's what you do. You just get the infinite and win the game. But we're getting off track. The point is, if you're going infinite, you should be winning the game. Therefore, you need to take some drinks to slow you down.
Yeah. Or, I mean, that then puts you at, if you go infinite and you do win the game, you take your drinks because then that kind of like slows you down for the next game, and it puts you at a little disadvantage because you don't want the same person to win every single game. You want to give that chance to like other people.
Exactly. And so our last rule in this category is take a drink for every library search that is not for a land. So in EDH, there's quite a bit of like searching, tutoring, and like tutoring just makes decks more consistent. Therefore, they're more likely to win. Like, let's just be honest. And so in forcing the person to drink every time they tutor, it forces them to have like be at least punished. Like if they choose to run tutors, they're at least punished for doing so. And I don't know, sometimes you do have to tutor for an answer that your opponent has, and that's fine, but this rule is mostly in place to hurt the people that tutor after tutor after tutor, and that kind of gets into the other rules where they just like tutor for a lot of different cards and win.
I also do want to point out that we don't want to like, because yes, tutors, I want to say like tutors are considered one of the better cards in the format, whether it's Worldly Tutor, if it's Enlightened Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, there's all, Mystical Tutor is a good one.
Demonic Tutor.
Demonic Tutor, yeah, Demonic Tutor is literally one of the best cards in the format. But these also cost, like, I know Demonic Tutor at least can cost like $30 at least. And it's really nice that, like, you know, if you have the money and you want to spend it on cards because that's what makes you happy, please do that. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't want to say, like, you know, you shouldn't be punished then if you're in a game, you play Demonic Tutor, it costs you $30. You shouldn't take a shot because of that, because, you know, that's something that made you happy. You should, you know, maybe just take a drink. Like, that's kind of, I think that's what makes it balanced, is you somehow earned the money to then pay for the card, but that also shouldn't, like, super adhere you to the fact that, you know, you paid that money for that card. Because, I mean, I personally, I fucking hate how I've spent so much. I don't hate how I've spent so much. I hate how I spent so much money on Yu-Gi-Oh! But, like, I'm really glad at the money that I've spent on Magic, because it's now an investment. Like, so I have the really nice art for Demonic Tutor and Vampiric Tutor, and I'm happy with that. And now those cards are worth at least $20 more than when I paid for them. And I don't want to be able to, like, take a shot or make someone, like, you know, mad that, like, oh, well, he bought those cards. Well, I earned that money, and I shouldn't be punished by taking a shot versus taking a drink, which is a little less and more reasonable, rather than, yeah.
I do agree with you, and the only thing I'll add to that is, like, I agree with you. You don't want to be, like, you paid money for a card, you want to be able to play it, but at the same time, if all of your deck is, like, pimped out, foiled, and, like, you spent, like, ridiculous amounts of money on it, it's most likely pretty competitive, and, like, it's going to be much faster than, like, say, a casual EDH game. And so in that case, if your entire deck is, like, really fast, like, I feel like you should be punished for that, but I don't know.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Moving on. Our next category is artifact based. Our first rule is drink every time Soul Ring is cast. And this is a rule I added because every deck in EDH plays Soul Ring. Because it's affordable, and it's arguably one of the best cards ever in the format.
It totally is, like, I struggled to think of a card that could be considered better than Soul Ring.
I mean, there's Mana Crypt, but there's the downside of it dealing you 3 damage each turn. But that one's much more expensive. I think right now it's like $100.
Well, so, also that one hasn't been reprinted as much. Like, almost every time that a Commander deck is printed, it's guaranteed that Soul Ring is going to be in there. Like, Commander 28 is about to come out, and spoiler alert, without even it already being spoiled, but Soul Ring is probably going to be in there.
I believe so. I think Soul Ring is put into every Commander precon. Right. Like, I don't know, though.
I mean, I'm almost positive, but because I remember, like, because I always buy a new Soul Ring whenever I buy a new Commander deck, because, like, it's only, like, it is, like, one of the better cards, but, like, it's still only, like, $1.50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very affordable.
Right.
Yeah. And so our next rule in the category is take a shot if Sensei's Divining Top is taken/successfully removed by an opponent. Because I don't know if any of you have tried to get rid or, like, taken, like, a Sensei's Divining Top, but it's, like, damn near impossible. Like, all this spot removal, useless.
Yeah, because, like, you know, you play Sensei's Divining Top, you do the 1 mana, like, look at your 3 cards, you choose what's now going to be on top of your library, which is already a great effect. But then if someone tries to, like, remove it, you just tap it, you draw your card, put it on top, you avoid that. Like, what, I don't know, but, like, you need to inform me, what is the instance when Sensei's Divining Top is successfully removed from an opponent? And also, let's say, I think it should be the rule that, I don't know if we made this clear, but the person who loses the Sensei's Divining Top is the one who takes the shot, not the one who removes it. It's the one who, like, oh shit, they destroyed my Sensei's Divining Top. I'm the one who takes the shot. It's not them, it's you.
Correct. Yeah. Like, if you removed it, congrats. Like, good on you. You
should get, like, a medal or something. You don't need to take more alcohol. You need to get a medal.
Alright, our last category of, like...
Wait, no. You need to go back and you need to tell me an instance where... How do you remove Sensei's Divining Top?
I'll be honest, in, like, okay, like, I haven't... compared to other people, I haven't been playing the format as long. You even shorter than I have. I have not seen a Sensei's Divining Top successfully removed or taken.
Huh. That's... I mean, I guess... I can't really think of too many cards that have the split second ability, but, like, would the split second ability be allowing you to interrupt or...
I think Croson Grip, because it has split second and it says destroy target artifact or enchantment, I think they would not be able to activate the top and put it on top of their library. I think that is like one of the few instances in which it would work. I don't know though, because I don't have the cards pulled up in front of me. I probably should, but I don't, because I'm just bad.
Well,
so like,
no, that's
people
not
in
your
the
fault.
comment.
Because, like, we definitely didn't talk about... Like, I didn't ask you this before we started recording. And even, like... Because, like, I guess another instance that I can kind of think of is if you tried to remove someone's Sensei's Divining Top, and then you had Sundial of the Infinite, and you try to then tap it to end the turn, that then, like, cancels out every other kind of, like, effect that goes into place. And so you could remove Sensei's Divining Top that way, maybe?
I'm not sure.
Neither am I. And that's what makes us noobs at this
The
game.
best.
Because we really
Alright.
don't know fucking shit.
Yeah. On that note, moving on to our next category. Our category here is called Extra, because we came up with a bunch of rules and Guy and I were like, shit, we don't know where the fuck to put these, so let's just make another fucking category for them.
Also, we are pretty extra ourselves.
Yeah. So, the first rule here is randomly pick a singleton card from each player's deck. If that card is ever revealed to the table during the course of the game, that player must take a shot. I really like this card. I really like this effect.
Yeah, because, like, let's say, I mean, this is probably the best example, but, like, Atraxa. If you have an Atraxa deck and you're playing Doubling Season, and you play Doubling Season, fucking take a shot. Because, like, you know that card is just going to make your deck infinitely better. Doubling Season allows you to put double the amount of counters, and Atraxa just proliferates? Like, what the hell? Like, yeah, you better be winning the game again, so you better take a shot just to kind of, like, satisfy, or not satisfy, because that makes only you happy, but it better, like, even the playing field, I guess.
Yeah, because every Commander player with their deck can look at it and be like, alright, aside from my Commander, this is the most powerful card in my deck.
Yes.
And then your opponents can then be like, okay, I know this is the most powerful card in your deck, I'm going to name it using this drinking rule. And so it kind of, as you play the game, it makes you reconsider, like, especially how, like, much you've drank already. It's like, this is, like, a really good card in my deck. Is it worth the effect at this point in the game to play this versus the backlash of having to drink? And I really like that. It slows down the game. I like that.
And yeah, because I can immediately name, I I almost also want to like try and say like maybe there's a combo that you play, because okay, here's my line of thought. But like Skithrix, my black deck of Infect, if I play Blightsteel Colossus and 11/11 Trample Infect, that card,
Indestructible.
yeah, and indestructible, and it doesn't actually go to my graveyard, it goes back to my deck. That card is insane. Like, it's definitely worth $30 or $40 that it's worth right now. I don't, the 40 is probably a little too high. It's probably worth around 30 right now. But that card, if I play it, I should be taking a shot, because if I kill someone with Blightsteel Colossus, that's like an immediate win. That's a win con without it having to say you win the game. It definitely takes down an opponent. But then also, and I think this is true for both your Una deck and my Jace deck, but we both have the combo of Mind Over Matter, Temple Bell, and Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, where we have Mind Over Matter. So you discard a card, you untap certain card, and you untap Temple Bell. Temple Bell activates where everyone draws a card. So you keep activating that, and then eventually sacrifice Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, so you don't discard your whole deck, but everyone else does. And so maybe it's also like, you know, if you go into a certain like win combo, because like if you're gonna win with this combo of, maybe it's like take a shot, I guess, for one single card, but take 2 shots if you're going to play this win combo in your deck.
Yeah. So, like, in your example, like, maybe name Ulamog the Infinite Gyre as the card that you'd have to take a drink for. Yeah.
Or 2 shots, or something, because, like, Mind Over Matter, Temple Bell, and Infinite Gyre, Ulamog the Infinite Gyre, if you have those cards in your deck, and if you are able to play all 3 successfully, you're going to win the game. So take 2 shots, because unless if nobody else has some kind of answer, which I don't think is likely, unless they're trying to play the like similar style, then you win the game.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next rule is
take 2 shots.
Yeah. Our next rule is if any 2 players get in a rules dispute, loser drinks. Because I've had games where this doesn't happen too often, but like there's a rules dispute and we have to look it up, and like it's this huge like issue because you know it dictates the rest of the game, and so loser drinks. And like if you like get it wrong, it's like, oh, you'll never forget that because you had to drink for it.
Right, like I guess I try my really best to like know, because then this also kind of like punishes you if you built your deck around a mechanic and you didn't do the proper research.
Mm-hmm.
Though you could, because like I've seen people who've said you can't play 2 planeswalkers with the same name, but that's not true. You can't play 2 planeswalkers that share the exact same name. So I could have 2 different types of Jaces, but I can't have 2 Jace the Mind Sculptors out on the playing field. And I mean, that's a little different for EDH because, you know, you can't actually have 2 Jace the Mind Sculptors unless if you were able to create a token
copy
of your planeswalker. Though I don't know, I'm really drunk right now. I don't know how I can be able to tell you how to be able to create a planeswalker copy, but anyway, that kind of goes off the point of
rules dispute.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't know. It punishes you, and it also then, but it makes you a better player, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, our very last rule is whenever you refer to a card by a nickname, take a drink. And I love this because like everyone has like their commanders, their favorite cards, and so it's like everyone has their fun little nicknames, and like for example, like in my meta group, one of my friends calls Omnath Locust of Rage Big Daddy Omnath, and so every time he would say that, he would have to drink, and I just like that. It just makes things fun. It's like, yes.
To be honest, if I was playing my Skithrix deck, I would just chug a whole beer before the game, because I was like, the only way that I'm referring to this card is going to be by Skittles.
Yeah.
I'm not going to refer to him as anything else, so I'm just already going to like chug the whole beer and like accept the consequence of like, this card is Skittles. It's not Skithrix, it's Skittles. And everyone else, I've already done my drink. Deal with it.
Yeah. And so that was our first rule style. That was taking drinks based on mechanics. And so this next rule style is taking shots or drinks to gain advantage over others, and that's where Guy's gonna explain.
Yeah, definitely our first section was definitely the bigger one, where I think, in my opinion, and probably Blake's opinion too, is that this is that last play style that we just talked about is probably the better play style, because it kind of evens the playing field. It's very broad. It's very...
We'll get to that. Why don't you explain this rule style of taking drinks or shots to get advantage?
Okay. Anyway, so I guess since Blake told me, I'll listen. But so the other rule style is to gain advantage based on what you drink. So it's like a double sword where, let's say you take one shot, you gain 3 life. You take the shot to gain 3 life, and because maybe you're at like 6 or 7 life, and you know that next turn someone's going to be able to kill you with that 10 life, and you're like, no, I'm going to take a shot so I know that at least the next person after me isn't going to be able to take me out. So you take a shot, you gain 3 life. That's just an example. Maybe it could be 4 life, maybe it could be 5 life. I say 3 life because no one in our group plays life gain win cons, where it's like, I have 100 life, I'm gonna win the game. That's not really, I can't think of a strategy in EDH where if you have 100 life, you win the game.
In my experience, there's Aloro Aetherflux Reservoir.
And is it like you have 100 life, you win the game?
It's like 100 life, you're able to kill 2 players.
Oh, okay.
They usually have have just over 100 and they kill 2 players.
Okay, well, in that instance, at least, like, you'd have to take like 20 shots to then get there. So 3 life is pretty fair. If you did it to 5, then it's only like 12, which still is a fuck ton, but then you technically win the game, I guess. If you want to take 12 shots to win a game, and you have the alcohol tolerance for it, sure, go for it. But still. Or it could be like, take 1 shot, draw a card, because that could really be like the instance of whether or not you actually win the game, because you might have the win combo in your hand, but you're 1 mana short, and you're like, well, if I take a shot, maybe I could draw a card. And you draw a card, and it's a land. Now you have the mana. Or you draw a card, and it's not the land, and you're like, okay, maybe 1 more shot. And then you ultimately take 2 shots to draw 2 cards. And that's like, that could really be the game-winning play, is you take 2 shots to win the game, and then maybe you get to then play 2 or maybe 1 or 2 more games, and you win the game.
Yeah. And then, again, a reminder, this is all heavily dependent upon your metagame. Depends on how tolerant everyone is. And you can choose how much alcohol corresponds to how much advantage. It's all customizable. It's all up to you guys.
No, yeah, I definitely, yeah. I'm sorry that I didn't mention that at the beginning. I'm really drunk right now. Like, I think I already mentioned it, but like 2/3 of a bottle of wine and like, I don't know. I kind of want to drink another Not Your Father's root beer. But like, once we're done talking, Blake's like, we're Skyping each other, and Blake's already like giving me this like, don't do it kind of look.
No, you're on a good level. Write it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna write this out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I guess I don't know if I'm so drunk, but like this idea of playing the game by taking shots or drinks, because you get to like adjust kind of the level and then gaining advantage. So we also have this example of take 2 shots and you get to exile a target permanent or spell. I guess exile target permanent or counter target spell, because let's say it's like a counter spell that you want to counter, take 2 quick shots and you're like, no, oh shit, I almost dropped my mic. But like, I don't know if you're gonna hear the audio of the mic slightly falling, but oh, I'm so sorry to my roommates. Not my roommates, the people who live around me, I guess. But I don't care, cause you know I'll be up at like 2 a.m. and they'll be watching Westworld or some shit, and I don't care. But anyway, so take 2 shots, exile target permanent or counter target spell, and this would also have split second. So kind of how we talked about how corrosion grip, you play that, and you know it has split second, so it kind of like deletes the stack, and you can't respond to that because it has split second. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, pretty much, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, like, we had another one which was, like, take 2 shots, play an extra land drop this turn, and, we immediately began talking about how, like, this could backfire, where, like, okay, at the beginning of the game, you just take 4 or 6 shots, like, play some OP bullshit the first, like, turn, and, like, really like set yourself up for winning way more earlier than you should. So I don't think that's a good rule. We wrote it, but like, I mean,
well,
that's...
I think how we described it is if you do this rule, you need to have like some kind of like parameters. Like you can't use this rule until it's turn 3. So that way nobody is like...
yeah, that's what we did.
Yeah, it's not like it's turn 1. I'm going to take 6 shots immediately so I can play like 3 extra lands. And now I have 4 mana on my first turn. Where, well, I guess you could have 4 mana on your first turn if you play like 1 land, tap it, Soul Ring, and then Mana Crypt also. So now you have 4 colorless mana at least. And you can't go off like any crazy combo like that, but you can then start playing like a ton of artifacts. Like you can then play Grim Monolith and Basalt Monolith, where you have all this mana, and then next turn it's like I can go infinite with, like, this is the ideal scenario, I guess, but
yeah, but you can definitely build decks around this. Like that's what EDH is about, and we'll talk about that probably in another podcast.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, yeah. But so having parameters, definitely consider having parameters around these rule types where it's like, yeah, if you do take 2 extra shots to play an extra land, that should, I mean, some of these should be like win cons. Like you're taking the 2 extra shots to play the land because you know you're going to win. And then that puts you at the slight disadvantage that if you do play another game, you are at a little disadvantage, and that gives someone else a chance to win. Because, yeah, if it's like a play group that you're really comfortable with and, you know, you really enjoy and you want to play more games with, you don't want to be the asshole who wins every time and then nobody wants to play with you.
Yeah. So that concludes the whole taking drinks to create advantage section. And our third and last rule style is a super casual drink whatever you want to drink. Like, just drink whenever you want, however much you want. Personally, this is the drinking EDH style that my metagame does, because people are different. They all have different tolerance levels. And so this way, everyone is exactly... I mean, assuming they have good impulse control. Everyone at the end of the night is, like, feeling good. They're feeling great because they drink exactly as much as their body can handle and are feeling good. And this is the rule style I would recommend to people who are just getting into drinking EDH, to just do whatever, just drink however much the fuck you want. Just, like, do whatever makes you feel good. Like, because, like, if you do drinking EDH, we don't want you to do a rule style where, like, you're puking in the toilet. Because, like, then you're never going to want to do this ever again. And that's not what we want. We want you to have fun with this. We want drinking EDH to be, like, an enhancement, like, if nothing else. Like, we don't want it to be a step down from what normal play is.
No, I definitely agree with you, Blake. Because, like, if Blake and I were to play this drinking EDH variant, like, I've seen him, like, chugging on this bottle of wine throughout the episode, because we visually Skype each other. I can't do that, like, at all. Like, I'm not at his level. Like,
No.
if I were to take one shot just to gain 3 life, I'm going to be at a huge disadvantage as to where, like, Blake would... Like, in order for Blake to, like, gain 3 life, he should take 3 shots, and that would probably be the equivalent. Like, that's how the tolerance level... So unless if you know that everyone in your play group has a pretty similar... And, like, that's kind of hard to judge sometimes. But if everyone has, like, a similar tolerance level, and, you know, it's a fun time, and you're able to be, like, comfortable with each other, then maybe, yeah, we do... I mean, yes, this style of drinking alcohol at a very casual pace with your friends is probably the first couple ways that you should do this game. And then I would recommend probably doing the style that we recommended, or not recommended, but the design of that encourage or deter certain behaviors, where that was the first one we talked about. And then the last style I would recommend maybe trying to implement is when you take shots to, like, try and gain advantage.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Also, in that style, I would at least then also recommend the idea of maybe taking a drink at the beginning and end of your turn. Like, that should be, like, a base rule for that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
So at least everyone is drinking alcohol, because at some point, like, yeah, maybe your deck is much better and you know that you're not going to need to take those extra shots, but you should then still be drinking some kind of alcohol on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Not to make you alcoholics or anything. That's not what we want.
No.
Not capital, bolded, underlined, italicized, not. We don't want you to become alcoholics. As Blake then chugs on the last of his wine.
This is my hard A.
It's your what?
This is my hard A. I'm finishing it.
Oh, your hard alcohol. Whatever.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, I guess I think that's... No, that is everything that we had to say. Whether you like it or not, whether you actually implement this, whether or not you actually fucking listen to us, because, you know, we're still at a point where we're fairly new, and, you know, we just do this for fun. But yeah, leave a comment if you have any suggestions of like how you would implement like drinking into EDH, or if you have any EDH stories or rules. I already said that. Fuck.
Yeah.
Leave a comment if you have any drinking rules you would add, or if you do have stories, because we would love to hear how, you know, you and your friends got super drunk, even though we don't really know you. As long as you're safe, like, we would love to hear any funny story. If we do happen to get like tons of responses, because like for some unforsaken, God forbid, reason that we get like hundreds of views on this episode ever, like, we would love to know like some of your stories, and then maybe like, yeah, we'll pick a winner, even though Blake and I are at a point where we have no money.
Yeah. I'll tell some stories on some future episodes of my drinking EDH games.
Yeah,
I'll save that for later.
I mean, I honestly am still not at a point where I can tell you stories of how I drank and played EDH, because Blake and I know we really hope that in the next 1 or 2 episodes, Blake and I get to do a episode where we're together, because right now we're on opposite ends of the coast, but it looks like I might be moving closer to where Blake is, so maybe it could become not necessarily a regular thing, but like something where we're able to like do every other episode together, and like we can be together.
Yeah, that's our goal in the long run.
No, yeah, like in the ideal world, we would be like the command zone where we're sitting. Well, I guess actually, I mean the command zone right now, you know, it's July. Is it the 26th or 27th? Doesn't matter. But like, you know, Jimmy and Josh are separated at the moment. Jimmy's off doing something that we don't know about, but Josh, you know, he's still doing the command zone, and well, I guess he has, you know, AJ from the Jumbo Commander. But in the ideal world, Blake and I would love to be at a point where every other weekend, or every weekend if we do get popular enough, where we could like sit together, we could talk about Commander for an hour, hour and a half, and you know, we get like 18 people to listen to us.
Yeah. No, that's our end goal, and like, I think it can happen. That's what we want to happen.
Yeah, that's definitely what we want to happen.
Yeah. So I'd like to also take this moment to thank our sponsors.
Thank you so much, sponsors.
Yes. And you can find us on Twitter at WizardStaff101.
I have not tweeted in like 2 or 3 weeks because I was out of volunteer program, and then, you know, our audio went to shit because Blake's mic broke for some reason.
Yeah.
So
we probably should have tweeted about that, but we didn't. We'll do that next time.
Yeah,
maybe when yours breaks.
We have like maybe 2 followers.
That's fine.
God, I'm so drunk.
Yeah. And if you honestly, like, we would love to hear from you. We honestly do. So like, our email is wizardstaff101@gmail.com, and you can find all this in the thumbnail at the bottom of our YouTube video if that's how you're listening to us. And we just want to thank you again for listening. We appreciate it so much, and we love you guys.
Everything Blake said, I agree with.
I agree. Okay.
All right. Well, Blake's finishing off the last of his bottle, it's dead. So, yeah. We will see you out. Well, the next episode we're just going to be Commander 2018 spoilers and, you know, just deck techs, or not deck techs, because
no, we aren't doing deck techs. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, fuck that. But kind of like analysis of a very high level analysis of the new Commander 2018 decks. And we do promise to put that out a little sooner because, you know, we had this fucking inconvenience of audio malfunctions.
Yeah, and we'll try not to talk twice as long as we expected to.
Well, I feel like if we get really drunk, Blake, which is kind of what happened this episode, that, that's what's going to happen, is we're just going to get into this point of drinking. I'm already, rambling. You know what? We're ending the episode now.
We're ending this right now. Fuck this. Abort.
Yeah. Good night. Well, if you're listening at night, good night. If you're listening at good morning, good morning. And
this is the end of the episode.
End of the episode. All right, Blake.
Goodbye.
Stop the audio. Blake, stop the audio.